This is an 8-iron, and it's a dead shank.
Wow.
Way right.
Oh, takes a hop off the path.
You gotta be kidding me. Very tough pitch shot right here. You gotta hit it into the hill, one hop up and bite, and it's in.
Kind of like that.
Hey everyone, it's Jason Hyland at the Sub 70 Podcast. The guest that we have for this episode is JJ Killeen. He was the 2011 Player of the Year on the Webcom Tour. Had a really good amateur career, played on the PGA Tour, and then injuries caught up, and he switched gears and has gone to the business side of golf, which is a really interesting conversation as well of what he's doing with his new project. So really want to thank JJ for his time. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I hope you guys like it as well. Thanks for listening. Give us any reviews of the podcast on the platforms that you listen to it on. I greatly appreciate it. Enjoy the conversation. Well, I would like to welcome two-time Web.com Tour winner and the 2011 Web.com Player of the Year, JJ Killeen, to the Sub 70 Podcast. JJ, thanks for taking the time today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to be on.
Well, before we get into your playing career and what you're doing business-wise at this juncture, your golf. Spring's kind of here, probably in Texas as well as the Midwest. Everyone's starting to play a little bit. Do you still get excited to play golf, even though you're not, playing professional tournament golf anymore or traveling and doing it or whatnot? Do you still get that buzz in the spring when it's time to kind of get the season rolling?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Kind of when the weather starts turning warm, it's just in, my DNA and most golfers to want to get on the golf course and play. So obviously I still enjoy going out as much as I can, hopefully competing in some stuff maybe this year. But for the most part, it's just a different process. It's just way more casual now, pretty stress-free environment most time I go out.
Yeah, and it's still enjoyable. Did you kind of have to realize, hey, you're not putting in the effort that you once did, and the play is obviously not going to be as good as it once was because you're not putting the effort in, and still try to just enjoy the game for what you kind of put into it at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of enjoy it regardless. I'm actually going on a lot more, golf trips with buddies or whatever, just, enjoying traveling around, playing different courses sometimes, more of in a stress-free environment, right? You're not playing for your livelihood every week, but yeah, 100% I enjoy it. I still love it.
What course are you a member at in Lubbock, Texas, or where do you normally play out of, and how good is the golf in the area that you live in?
Yeah, so we have, Lubbock it's a college town, but there's about 300,000 and change people. So it's a decent size city, kind of with the little surrounding areas. And then, Texas Tech University, 35 to 40,000 with grad students. So it's a large school. So they have their own course called the Rawls course, which I believe is a Tom Doak design, so really, really solid track. So I go out there quite a bit. Lubbock Country Club's pretty good, kind of the old school club in town, and then a couple other ones on the south side of town I play. So we got a decent mix of golf and big time golf community, sports community out here. So a lot of fun games to play, and then obviously whether it's the Tech kids or whatever, they're a really competitive college team to play with some of those kids sometimes. I think they're ranked top 10 or something. So there's a lot of golf going on. We're still in the we haven't had the best of early spring winters, if you want to call it. So everything is kind of Bermuda with bent greens here, but the Bermuda is definitely dormant. So looking forward to some warmer temps here to help it out.
How impressed are you with the way the college kids play this, these days with the distance off the tee and the aggressive style? Has it changed quite a bit since you were playing at TCU? Can you see what the equipment is sort of brought to these kids and how they're doing it?
Yeah, I mean, they hit it, kids just hit it far now. And I mean, when you're looking at numbers, I mean, you're looking at 175 ball speed kind of at an average for a lot of these kids, and 175, rarely the top maybe three guys in college when I played hit it that far. So that's a pretty rare feat, and now it's kind of the norm. So it's a little bit of a different game, but the playing field is definitely level. And I think on the PGA Tour it's beneficial because you're seeing guys in their upper 40s that still can bomb it, that are highly competitive.
Yeah, it's even since you kind of played college, what would be 15 years ago or so, how it's you can just see how those kids grew up with that equipment that didn't spin as much or allowed you to have a more aggressive hit through the ball. Now you're starting to see these young guys coming out, and I was lucky enough last year I got to go play, watch a college golf tournament and play sort of, it's like a pro-am scenario, but watch these kids up close, and got to play with an All-American from UCF, Kyler Tate, and it was just ridiculous how long he was and how good these players really are at a young age. So that's cool. You still get to, play with those kids, and then yet put your wisdom out there. I'm sure they like picking your brain in the sense that you did play at the highest level, and I'm sure they gained something out of it as well. It has to be kind of fun to do the mentoring with them a little bit as well, I would have to imagine.
Yeah, for sure. Like when I was in college, the big deal was the Pro V1 came out, I think, my freshman year. So, like, if you didn't hit a Pro V1 and seam it, you're costing yourself like 15 yards or whatever. And that was a massive deal. It didn't really, the drivers were all, pretty equal playing field there. But that ball kind of changed it. People started hitting it farther. They hit if they were hitting a Titleist, it was like the Prestige or Professional. And that thing goes 50 yards shorter than probably a lot of the balls that we're hitting today. So that's a massive deal. But yeah, it's just kind of funny how things have changed. And now it's all like training specific. I mean, these kids really know kind of if they're working out, what component to really work on to gain distance and consistency, all this sort of deal. I mean, I was right on the edge of kind of old school where you dig it out of the dirt, and then kind of training specific stuff hadn't quite evolved to the way it is today.
Yeah, your age is right on, and I'm 46, so I'm well past it, right? I mean, totally different. You were kind of on the edge of it. Now, say the guys, at least 30 or under, all kind of grew up with the technology and whatnot. So it's a different ball game, that's for sure. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Your business side of things, after you were done playing professionally, you kind of got in the business side of golf, and you started in Lubbock, Texas, for a golf center. So how did that project come about? What makes it unique? How long have you been involved in it, and what's sort of the game plan, or how do you see the future going with for golf, and how much have you enjoyed being on the business side of things versus playing?
Yeah, so it's absolutely different. So I graduated college in 2005, and I turned pro kind of out of college, and I think maybe I played mini tours for just under 2 years, and then I got on the Web.com tour in 2007, and I actually still have status on that tour from whenever. So I played on the Web.com from 2007, made it to the PGA Tour played 2012, and then kind of back on web, and all you were doing and your main focus was just professional golf, right? I mean, especially the Web.com tour, you're just trying to make it to the PGA Tour. So a lot of business things don't even enter your mind because you're playing, practicing all day, whatever, to try to get it on that level. So my experience was absolute minimal. And in 2014 and 15, I had a couple pretty major surgeries, like a rotator cuff, and then some other deal where I had a bone-on-bone situation and had to have surgery on my left shoulder, so left and right, and it beat me up and sidelined me for about 6 months each of the years 14 and 15. So that's when I seriously started looking into other avenues, and everybody once kind of knew about Topgolf, and it was growing at this point 4 years ago. And so obviously the logical thing is you call them and say, hey, will you come to Lubbock? Do you franchise? Do you license? All the business things that you would ask if you want to bring a business in town. And, no, obviously. And so we were like, let's start our own deal. So it was about the messiest operation imaginable for somebody that doesn't have any sort of business experience. But I was fortunate enough to surround myself with some partners here that were, general contractor experts, real estate experts, food and beverage experts. And, we ended up partnering up for a technology component. And we found a technology partner, and we were able to incorporate that. And all of a sudden we ended up with a business, and everybody kind of worked hard to get it done. And we opened in August of 17. So we're going on just over a year and a half now. And it's been an exciting endeavor. I've done everything here from GM to kind of director of golf. So I've learned, I've been thrown in the trenches just regarding budgets and everything else. And I love it. I'm really, really enjoying the challenge and learning all these new things. And, I don't know what the future holds as far as us moving forward. However, we're looking forward to just, absolutely doing the best we can out here and kind of seeing what happens. I think it's been great for the community. We brought a lot of people to golf that didn't have it before. Our technology is centered around, we use Flight Scope for the hardware, and it's called Big Shot software, kind of reads the game. So, we can use Flight Scope for all of the shot tracking and things like that. So you can play golf courses, a couple other cool things that are different than other technologies. So it's been fun. It's been a learning experience for sure, but I'm really happy kind of with the team we've built and, the relationships I've met with a lot of people on the other side of the industry specifically, not just the playing side. And it's been really cool.
What makes it a little bit, everyone's heard of Topgolf. In your opinion, what's the one or two things that makes for golf or what you're doing a little bit different? And then as a part two, did you think a mid-sized market like Lubbock that might get overlooked by some of these other larger franchises made the most sense? I mean, obviously you have a hometown, connection there or whatnot, but do you think it could be something brought to other mid-sized markets, like a Sioux Falls, South Dakota, or something that has 200,000 or 300,000 people around it that may get overlooked, yet it could be a great opportunity for you guys in the future to sort of plant your flag with those sort of scenarios or city sizes?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's all about, just understanding the business in general, and that golf is a huge component to it, but there's also a massive food and beverage and events business. And, assuming that the corporate business is there, the out of town visitors are there, and you're building it at the right cost, it can make sense anywhere. But, specifically where the mid markets really need to kind of pick up slack is getting repeat customers where, if you have a golf entertainment facility in a major market, you don't need as many repeat visits. You got way more corporate business, things like that. But at the same time, your real estate's way more expensive. You're building a building, and the size of it, logistically, all the other things that go into it are a lot more expensive. So you can always make it work. And we're kind of the guinea pig for this whole thing. So we figured out, a lot of different strategies that we didn't know early on, that we know now to kind of help us run as efficiently as possible. Everything from we were way overstaffed at the beginning because we didn't know what to prepare for. And now we know how to staff for every event, day of the year, whether there's a game, Super Bowl, Masters, like any major Texas Tech event. The basketball team here is really good, and it's a major draw for people to come watch. And there's so many things that go into it other than golf, to make it successful. So, I mean, long story short, just understanding the market, for places like Sioux Falls or other places you mentioned, and understanding how to capitalize on specific kind of days and events that they have going on.
The other thing you're hearing about now is the states being able to legalize sports gambling. And where is Texas in on that? And is that something that really could make the restaurant, sports bar, food aspect of what you're doing, do you have to factor that in if it does become legal in Texas of how you're going to incorporate that portion into it? Because I imagine, it would be nothing more fun to put a little money on a game while you're sitting at your facility having a beer and some wings, right? So that kind of goes hand in hand. How's that factoring in potentially, and then where's Texas at on that from the sports gambling standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, so as soon as we'd be able to do that, I'd be the first person in line to try to get a license. Texas is a great state. They do a lot of great things here. As far as things that are like that, they're usually one of the last ones to implement it. If it's not if it's based on the state, whether it's legalization of X or Y, depending on what it is, I think they'll probably be one of the last states to capitalize on that opportunity. However, there's people still need to go to a sports bar and watch the game and all that, but that sportsbook component is massive. And I know that, quite a few other states are starting to slowly kind of put it in play, whether it's, in Texas, we don't even have casinos, period. So Shreveport, Southern Oklahoma, they've got big casinos. I live in West Texas, so Eastern New Mexico, they have a bunch. So, the big deal is the sports component, but, we don't even have the kind of regular casinos with slots or blackjack or whatever it is. So I imagine we're quite a few years away from making that happen. But when it does, man, I'll be the first one to sign up and kind of redo everything to get ready for it.
Yeah, I mean, like, to me, with the whole golf thing, I mean, if you could have that in that facility, that would be so much fun to, maybe go practice on your game and then, put a few bucks on a game and have a beer after. I mean, it would be perfect. So I could see, that was my question of, eventually, if they do legalize, it would be such a great addition, to what you guys are doing down there. It'd be an interesting scenario to see how that plays out. But yeah, I mean, right, that'd be a perfect Saturday afternoon for me. Yeah. I
love going to Vegas. So anytime I can get a chance, we got a direct from Lubbock to Vegas, which is one of the few major cities we can go into direct. So, I mean, I love that atmosphere, and tying the golf component to it, it'd be great.
Yeah, right. And like, just, you don't have to put, like, I don't think most people are putting crazy amount of money that you're a degenerate gambler. I mean, it's fun to put, 10, 15 bucks on a game just for the next 3 hours just to watch it a little, with more excitement to it, right? And you win one, you lose one. It's not, I think there's a lot of people who will do it casually and enjoy it more than, I think where it turns into a problem at least, right? I mean, if someone had a problem, they were already doing it probably illegally anyway. So I think it's great to bring it,
exactly,
out to the public, make it more fun, while you're sitting there enjoying a game. So I think it's going to be great when it kind of gets implemented everywhere. It's going to be so much fun to, like you say, you don't have to go to Vegas to do that. You could go to your local place in Lubbock and enjoy an afternoon. I think it'd be a blast.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. It'd be great.
Teaching. I know you did some teaching as well a little bit. Are you still doing that? And then is there certain types of players, if you still have the time to teach, that you're kind of working with? Is it the beginning golfers, better golfers? And how has that process sort of gone for you, kind of putting a different hat on and sort of, passing that knowledge base down?
Yeah, so when we opened up in August of 17, my intent was to kind of director of golf, throughout the facility, but also what makes us different than a Top Golf. We actually have like a teaching academy that's attached. It's like 2,500 square foot, awesome technology. You can hit out onto the range. So it's a different feel. It's got a little chipping green to the side. And, we thought that it's just a cool addition. It would bring crossover traffic to the facility. And Lubbock didn't really have a good instruction place at all, indoor teaching place. So where you can hit out. So this was the first one. So I implemented a lot of programs and instruction, and I'm lucky here. There's a kid named Wade Fullingham that teaches here, and he's kind of our director of instruction. So we get a massive amount of juniors from communities within 100 miles that come in, and I still have a hand in it, definitely. I don't do it as much as I did when we opened, but I enjoy now kind of implementing the programs. And, I taught everything from anybody that was a beginner, it didn't matter their skill level. We did it. Now I'm a little more specific on high school kids, things like that. One of our kids, Brian Bowles, just won the Texas Cup. It's about the biggest junior tournament here, and he got a scholarship to Texas Tech. He's playing there, I think he starts in a couple of years. I think he's a junior this year. So there's a lot of exciting players here that are good. Another kid named Jackson Drake that won state a couple years ago. So Lubbock's got a bunch of good golfers, Lubbock, Amarillo, Midland, and it's exciting to just kind of teach those guys. And, I enjoy going out on the course with them probably a little bit more just because I can see where they can kind of save shots, right? There's only so much you can do in a teaching bay. So, game development, course management, just sometimes kids won't even, and myself included, when you're hitting the shot and someone's observing you on a course, there's always a different way to look at it. Maybe you just need a fresh set of eyes, or your way is not the best way, but 1-2 shots around, something like that for a kid really trying to play in college and hopefully turn pro. That's a massive deal.
It's interesting you said that, because my follow-up to this was going to be, as you started teaching more, did you kind of learn anything about your game or rethink potentially how you might look at a situation, because you're on the other side of that coin sort of observing it? Did you implement or do anything in your own game sort of from those experiences of being a teacher?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of, when you're on the instruction side a little more often, you start like looking at swings, analyzing them, what's more efficient, things like that. But that's an exciting deal because, you can just say, hey, this is the most efficient way to hit a golf ball. I'm kind of built like this guy. I never knew that, just listening to different instructors. I never thought of it this way or whatever. So I kind of learned a lot about my swing and the way that I swung in perhaps ways that were more efficient, more powerful. When you're not playing for a living, you can just experiment, try different things out and see what's the best for you. And, I ended up doing that all the time. And then, it's shocking when you start teaching how many good players like have similar issues, right? You just assume it's one thing or another, but, that's just something that you really notice is, some guy might, whether it's, hip rotation, shoulder turn, club face, all these other things, they'll have one little fault and it fixes like 4 or 5 other ones and just helps them be more efficient. So it's fun to look at it that way.
Let's talk about your playing career. You went to TCU, and who were some of the rivals that you played against in college, and are any of those guys still on the PGA Tour today? And I'm assuming it had to be so much fun going to college at TCU, and that whole experience had to be absolutely fantastic, I would assume.
Yeah, it was awesome. So I went to high school in San Diego in California, and I moved to Lubbock when I was like a junior. So the high school golf in Texas is 10 times better than California as far as the tournaments and competitions that they have, right? Obviously a ton of great players in SoCal, California in general, but the high school golf is garbage as far as the way that it's run. It's 9-hole matches. Like I moved to Texas and we're like traveling, playing 36-hole matches over 2 days, all these other things. And it's really cool to the difference. Anyway, I got here, and our state, I think I won our state championship our senior year. Hunter Mahan won it our junior year, and then right before I got here, Martin Flores won it. So we were all in the same district together too. So me and Martin and Hunter. So our high school district had us in it, and then obviously we went on to play state. But as far as college is concerned, I mean, the guy that won everything when I was in college, my freshman year, Graham McDowell, TCU was in the Conference USA, and Graham McDowell went to UAB, and I don't even know how many times he won, man, like 17 times in 2 years or something. But obviously he went on to bigger and better things there. Bill Haas was at Wake Forest. The other guy that won a ton is an amateur that's about my age is Ryan Moore. I think he might have had the best amateur summer, other than Bobby Jones.
Yeah,
ever.
It's like him and Colt Knost, right? Those 2 summers those guys had for USGA events were insane.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a little older than Colt, but we were like kind of rivals because, he went to SMU, went to TCU, and Colt likes to pop off to everybody. Everybody knows that, and it's fun. So we used to have a couple little fun matches all the time, and Colt had a phenomenal, he's, great PGA Tour player, but phenomenal amateur career too. And just off the top of my head, those are kind of the really top guys I can think of. And Ryan Moore specifically, he won like everything. Oklahoma State was still always good. I think Alex Noren was like their 5 guy about my age, couple years. And he was like 11th in the world or whatever. So obviously their team was just stacked.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like, just like I said, for your high school district to have 3 guys who, played the tour. That's, talk about some good competition at a young age. That's insane.
Yeah.
For all you guys to make it out to that level, it's pretty crazy. You decided to turn pro, and there was the life on the mini tour. So everyone's got great stories of chasing it on the mini tour. I know you won on the Tight Lies tours. Looking back, is there some great stories or funny stuff that kind of happened? Because it's usually, when I talk to the guys, it's 4 guys in a hotel room, everyone is broke. But they all kind of look back at it with sort of fond memories of sort of grinding it up, if that makes sense. So, how was that mini tour scene, and how was that process of turning pro and kind of starting that journey?
Yeah, so I kind of did a different angle than everybody else. Obviously I went to Q school and didn't make it through kind of right out of college, but people would do like 1 million Monday qualifiers, and I just wouldn't do that. I tried to raise a little bit of money when I started, but not enough to chase the nationwide, or it was a nationwide tour back then. Tour, it was crazy expensive. So I tried to play as many tournaments as I could just for competition, and it was fun. You'd always have a roommate for sure. You didn't have your own room on the mini tours, but like you were just used to it, and then. You have somebody to go to dinner with, play practice rounds, all this. If someone had a random caddy or friend or whatever, cousin that wanted a caddy, they were always there on a roll away or whatever. And I enjoyed it. It was fun. And then I just loved to play and compete. So you're trying to win tournaments. And And anyway, I missed Q school, and then the next year, I'm trying to think. I missed Q school twice. So I was right out of college. So the third time that I went was since I went right out of school. So the third time I went in 2007, I shot I think I was one out of the number on first stage, and I shot a 40 on my front nine. So pretty much mail it in. But then I shot a 30 on the back. So I shot 40, 30, and I made it like last man in to second stage. And then I finished fourth. And then I think I missed my tour card at finals by like a shot or two. And then I got on web. So, I mean, it's funny how everything is based on the way that Q school was kind of built in, and one back nine changed it for me. And ever since then, I had status on tour and kind of never lost it, and still have some web.com status. But I mean, it's crazy. I love the way Q school was. I wish it was still the same way. It just gives guys a chance to get their tour card, with one hot, 3 stages or whatever it is. And now it's just kind of a longer process, but they're still developing players. And it's just, there's a lot of pressure there. You're playing for your livelihood, and it all comes down to, one round or one shot or whatever, for you to have a legitimate job for the next year.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think, and I understand why they're doing it, because so many of the guys would get hot for, a period, then not play well throughout the whole year. But like, you're not going to see the Rich Beam stories anymore of somebody who's a assistant golf pro who gets his tour card and then wins that year, right? Like, it's not going to happen with the way they have it set up. I would hope eventually they'd maybe have like 5 spots open or something that you can go from stage 1 in the same year all the way to the PGA Tour. I think it would be a cool way of letting some of those guys who really play well get rewarded or go to the highest level and see how they do for that season.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no reason to not do it, honestly. I mean, even if you, 10, 5, I don't even think any of the players would argue at all, because, I mean, when you think about it, the way it is now, you can go tied for 5th in those web finals, miscut. I mean, so are you telling me that guy played the best for the 4 weeks? Like, hell no, but he got his card. So, I mean, that's the system now, but what is different as a flash in the pan scenario to that than the way it was before? So, they're like, guys have to be more consistent. It's not really true. And I get why they're doing it now, but yeah, throw a few cards in there just for some crazy excitement. I
agree. Yeah. And you see so many of the tour players who, go back to the web finals and they're seasoned professionals, and they'll finish, T3 the first week, and they're not even playing in the next couple events. They got their card wrapped up. So yeah, I think it'd be interesting to have it, sort of have a little excitement of having like the Cinderella story, for lack of a better word, kind of make it all the way, to the tour. I think it'd be a great thing for golf to actually follow those guys and see how they do. Back to the mini tour stuff. Did you guys do a lot of like Tuesday, Wednesday gambling to keep your game sharp? And like, you always hear these stories of like Steve Marino was a legend on the mini tours. And did you play with a lot of those guys who liked to have action on it to keep you guys sharp, or did you use those days earlier in the week? And this could be for the web or, mini tours as well. Did you just practice earlier in the week to be ready for Thursday, or did you like a competitive game to stay sharp?
Yeah, I mean, we just practiced, but I always, we gambled on the golf course every single time. I mean, regardless of the tour. I mean, it just makes you concentrate a little bit more, just to get ready. I mean, you want to hit a shot that actually matters. The driving range after the round, that's when you want to work on some technical things. But, on the course, it's just fun to try to feel that pressure at all times and be able to execute a shot, whatever it is. I think that's the coolest part about it. So it didn't matter the tour. I mean, it could have been when I was just starting out, it was Tight Lies tour. When I was just first starting out, we'd play something, or, on the PGA tour. So, I mean, guys are always trying to stay competitive, and, I think it's the way to do it. On tour, guys have a normal Tuesday group. A lot of times as a rookie, you just kind of show up to the tee and you're paired with whoever, but, you always try to play a little something just for fun.
2011, hell of a season on the web.com, 2 wins, player of the year. What worked? Then, kind of looking back, what did you do to have such a consistent season to get those 2 wins and kind of get yourself to the PGA Tour? What all came together to have that kind of a season?
Yeah, so I played okay, like in, I think, 8, 9, and 10 on the web. I think I finished top 50 or something on the money list every year, so kept my card and played solid. But I was just playing the same, not getting better. My irons were bad. My short game was always good. I could hit it far, but not really straight. And I was kind of doing the same every year. So I started seeing a guy named Chris O'Connell, and I don't know if you know him, but he teaches he teaches a bunch of people, but his most famous client's probably Matt Kuchar. Really turned his career around, and I was like, I just want to be a more efficient striker. And I switched to him at the end of 2010, at Q school, and I missed my card by a shot, and then went to Web, and I think I made 22 out of 24 cuts and 7 top fives, couple wins, and just was solid. Putted the same that I always had, but a lot more greens in regulation, just way more efficient, different way to look at the golf swing, and that kind of really put me in a good spot there. And then a couple years later, just unfortunately, I just kind of got hurt doing things that I should have been doing my whole career, stretching or whatever it was. I always just was never injured, so I wouldn't really take the precautions for all those things. But man, he really turned my ball striking and things like that around, and just gave me kind of a fresh perspective on how to look at the golf swing in general to improve.
So what did you guys work on specifically? Because, Matt Kuchar's golf swing to me looks much simpler than his swing he came, out of Georgia Tech with. It just looks like there was way less moving parts now, and obviously it's proven that in the sense that he wins about, $3 to $5 million every year, like a annuity for himself. Did Chris work on the same thing with you in the sense of how do we get it to where week in and week out it's predictable and simple and where the ball's going to go? Was it sort of making it less athletic at some level, like you hear Kuch talk about?
Yeah. I mean, the most efficient muscles in the body are the biggest, least athletic moving ones, right? Like anytime you're moving anytime you're moving these fast muscles in your hands or whatever and relying on timing, it's just not a good way to hit it. So, specifically for Kuch, he was kind of a flippy guy kind of with his hands, right? He'd stand up a little bit coming into it. He wouldn't get the shaft back on the shaft plane at impact. So I think the biggest deal, you see him do that over the top looking practice swing, right? All he's trying to do there is return the shaft to where it starts, right? Get on the shaft plane. So he would get underneath and his hands would get high at impact, which means you're about to flip it. So they just tried to create this swing, and he is a one-playing guy. There's a bunch of guys, the best guys on tour, efficiency-wise, return the shaft plane right there. And some of them are flat going back, some of them are upright and then get shallow. But all he's trying to do is return that shaft plane to where it starts. And he's got unbelievable hand-eye coordination. He's like the best ping pong player, whatever. Probably go to the Olympics or something. But he can really feel certain angles and things, right? And man, the rest is history. He's always been a great putter and game manager, and I mean he's Jim Furyk 2.0 basically.
Yeah, and he also went from playing a hook or a draw to that little baby fade, and that seemed to have served him well too from a simple standpoint that probably there's no more fear of God of the thing going left, so he can swing hard at it and let it just fall to the right versus trying to time it up the other direction. So at a professional level, you can see why, with the athleticism he has, how that golf swing for him makes sense. And like I said, the proof's in the pudding of, he'll be 55 years old and the PGA Tour is still playing well with that golf swing. It just works. So, yeah, it's interesting you guys work with the same teacher and kind of the same concept of simplifying it down and making it better day in, day out. So he's a well-renowned teacher, and obviously the proof's in the pudding. Get to the PGA Tour in 2012. What's that experience like of just making it to that level? Like a hell of an accomplishment. You're playing against the best in the world. And once you got out there, besides the purse size and whatnot, what was the biggest difference you saw between the competition on the web and the PGA Tour? And, what was your sort of takeaway between both of those?
Yeah, I mean, the main difference is when you get on the PGA Tour, you're playing in tournaments, especially as a rookie, where guys have played those courses literally hundreds of times, right? If they're a veteran, and even if it's their fifth and sixth year, you don't get a ton of Web.com guys. Well, you get a lot, but you don't get as many as the PGA Tour that have played a tournament 10 times. You know what I mean? They've experienced it in every condition, surface, whatever, wind direction, whatever it is. They know what to expect, right? You still see a bunch of guys coming out and winning tournaments because if you're hitting it good or putting it good, anything can happen. But really, course knowledge and under par really means something on the PGA Tour. The Web.com, you play courses that are shorter. It's really hot in a lot of these places in the summer. It'll rain though with thunderstorms, so the ball goes so far, soft conditions, and you're just absolutely firing at every flag for the most part because you just don't have to worry about firm and fast conditions. So the way the PGA Tour is set up is firm and fast. Mid irons are huge. Being pin high is massive. You just look at the greens and regulation percentage, and then go ahead and look at the money list for me and let me know how that shakes out. Because on tour, they kind of know that it's really important to not make bogeys and doubles, and just kind of really make a few birdies, eagles, kind of capitalize where you can. And you'll see a lot of like even par 1 under cuts on the PGA Tour and the Web.com 5, 6, 7 under all summer long. So that's obviously a different deal. The best players in the world, the top guys on tour are obviously the best, but the best players on the web are still top 40 players on the PGA Tour. So there's not like there's a bunch of guys that can't even play. It's just they know how to manage their game, man. And they know the conditions, and it's just a huge difference. So rookies are really behind the 8 ball on a lot of these tracks.
Did you ever have your surreal moment where you're playing with Tiger or practicing next to Phil or, watching Ernie Els just striking on the range? Was there ever one of those moments where he's like, holy cow, I am really here, and this is so cool?
Yeah, I played I was playing pretty good at Riviera. Or no, I guess the first time. I was playing good at Torrey, and I was in 14th or 15th, something like that, going into Sunday. And then you get a little text on your phone who you play with, and I got paired with Bubba Watson and Dustin Johnson. I was just like, that was I had buddies out there I played practice rounds with, but that was my really wow, nobody in this whole gallery except my wife and parents really care what I do on this hole. It's all about those guys. But, awesome guys, fun to watch them just bomb it all over the place. And it was kind of a dream pairing. 2 of the longest guys in the history of the PGA Tour that are also fantastic players. Getting to play with them on a Sunday in a golf tournament where I grew up was really cool.
Isn't that awesome? I mean, the sense it's got to be the coolest thing ever, because I'm assuming you get completely pumped up for it too, right? This is why you put the work in and the practice and all of it to get to these moments. It's got to be also just you're ready for it, and it's got to be a cool experience to be kind of. How are you going to stack up, and what's it like to play in front of that many people? I think it'd just be the adrenaline rush of that. It would have to be awesome. I'd have to imagine. Not that I'll ever be there, but it's got to be cool as hell.
Oh yeah, it was so cool. I'm just mental bet to myself, I'm not going to get outdriven by 50 yards. You know what I mean? So I just tried to kill it off the first tee, and I was within 5 or 10 yards of those guys not all day, but most of the time if I hit a good one, because I wasn't short, so I was right there. And I just remember specifically the 15th hole there is kind of this tight hole with eucalyptus on the left, and it was an in left to right wind. So for a righty, and you're at sea level, obviously, I hit a spinny cut, and Bubba was hitting these slices down the middle of the fairway and was 10 yards past me on every hole. Well, I hit this spinny cut that kind of looked like his slice, and he hit a draw, and it probably went 110 yards past me. I mean, that was the first time where I was he just has another gear, man, if he wants it.
Yeah, right. But like I said, it's what a cool experience to get to do it. But like I said, also that, you're not out there in a pro-am. You've earned your way on the PGA Tour, so you've arrived as well, right? It's got to be cool to watch those guys, yet, you're out there to compete and win and to play. So it's got to be a dual scenario both sides, right? You don't want to just get stuck watching those guys because you have a job to do, and but it's still a big moment. So, yeah, it's cool to ask these guys who play the tour these questions of, what was that first big moment sort of like, and how did you play and how did you handle it? And usually they always got a pretty interesting story about an observation they made when they were playing with them. But it's a great story, man. It's so cool that you got to compete at that level and do it. Favorite stop on the PGA Tour? When you were out there, was there one tournament that stood out to you for the quality of the golf and the town and the way the tournaments ran? Was there one that you really looked forward to?
Yeah, I mean, I was based in Fort Worth, so playing Colonial was obviously a really cool deal. I was a member there and played there in college, and that was awesome. My favorite tournament, I kind of had 3, I guess. Riviera, I loved. I just thought that place was phenomenal. I played the Memorial, and then I played the Players also. So like those are just legit tournaments. Every single week you're treated like a king. You know what I mean? So like some tournaments kind of go crazy above and beyond, but every week it's fantastic. But I mean, as far as West Coast is concerned, I'd say Riviera, East Coast, the Players, unbelievable, and then Jack's tourney was just, man, what a great track. So I'd say those three, and they're just all great. That would kind of be the reasoning behind it.
Did you fall in love with Sawgrass right away, or did it take a little time for you to figure it out? I talked to a lot of guys, and they end up loving the golf course, but sometimes it's not a love at first sight scenario with it.
No, I did. I thought it was awesome. I mean, I really didn't have any other than, I think I shot like 69, 75, and I think the cut was 1 under, whatever it was. I think I missed by like a shot, so that sucked in the biggest one of the year. But I was able to get in that event from winning the Web.com money list, and then they kind of give you an exemption into that. And I just thought it was great. I didn't have anything negative to say. However, I didn't make like a 10 on 17 or anything. So I could see how guys could start thinking that, certain conditions were unfair, or one hole kind of dictates the whole round and all that. But man, it was just what a great tournament. Really cool.
You kind of alluded to this earlier too, is when the injuries started happening. And at what point did you notice, hey, there's something wrong, and then did it start producing some bad habits that were starting to affect your game because you were injured and couldn't swing the club the right way? And then how tough of a decision is it to know that your body is that battered where you say, I've had enough. I don't think I can compete like I used to be able to, and I have to call it a day. That's got to be a very difficult decision.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that is you got to be realistic with yourself, and you got to say, hey, look at results, look at whatever it is, your swing, ball speed, club head speed, all these other things. And then, can you consistently travel around the world, and can your body be ready to compete like that? Because, I mean, nothing against the Web.com tour. I love that tour, and I played really well out there. And you get to a certain point in your life with kids, and you're like, do I want to travel around the world and spend all this time away when I know that I'm not competing like at my highest level, right? So there's a realistic component to it, and who knows, like whatever, man, senior tour 2037 or whatever, I'll be ready to roll. But it's just a point where you have to where you have to just say, hey, there's so many young guys, there's so many young players, they're coming up. I think I can not only compete and get it done, but try to win tournaments. I mean, if you're playing an event and you don't think that you can win the tournament, like what's the point? Seriously. So that's kind of the way that I looked at it for a while. And who knows? I mean, hopefully I can compete again, whether it's whatever it is, kind of switch my PGA status to director of golf. But it'll be fun to play some of those tournaments and just see where my game stacks up.
Yeah, like Omar Uristi, right? Like he still gets to go out there and compete at the club pro level and do quite well with it and play a few Champions Tour events. So yeah, I mean, like I said, there's more than one way to still get that itch for the competition, and some guys who play the tour like you have found a way to do that sort of in the club pro championships and stuff like that too. So yeah, that'd be you can still get the itch and play against some pretty good competition. Just got a couple more and I'll get you out of here. These are kind of just quick hitters. From back in your playing days, if you could take, say, 2 or 3 guys on a guy's golf trip, say you're going out to Vegas, for example, and you're going to gamble a little bit, have dinner afterwards, just have a great time with the boys for 48 hours, who are the 2 or 3 guys you'd want to bring with, and what do you admire most about those guys?
Yeah, so as far as guys that on tour, or the guys that I played with before?
Yeah, buddies you play with on tour that you respect and like and just are a blast to hang out with.
Yeah, I mean, Richard Lee, I became really good friends with him. He lives out in Scottsdale. Our wives are really good friends, so I try to see him a couple times a year. And, we enjoy hanging out. And Martin Flores, I've kind of always kept in touch with ever since high school days with District, right? So that was fun, just kind of hanging out with him. And then, my fellow frogs, JJ Henry, obviously, and then Tom Hoagie that play on tour right now. We always had a good time hanging out. You form a little family out there, and it's chill. But there's a million guys. I mean, I really didn't have any negative experiences out there. As far as a lot of the guys I've met, the bigger guys, they have to travel in these entourage and teams and things like that just because of what's commanded out of them, right? With media and all these other things. And it's so you're kind of segmented to these different groups of, guys you hang out with at dinner or whatever, and you guys they just become really good friends. So I think those 4 guys we'd have a fun trip.
Best 2 or 3 golf courses you've ever played in your life, and not necessarily tour courses. It could be, if you ever had an opportunity to play Augusta or Pine Valley or any of the greats of the world. What's your 2 or 3 favorite, and what do you love about them most architecturally?
Yeah, so I did an awesome little golf trip last September. I played Maidstone, Friars Head, Fisher's Island up in New York.
Yeah.
And it was phenomenal. But like my favorites that they could just never host an event just because of logistics, like Friars Head, phenomenal. And Chris O'Connell's up there in the summertime and teaches, and it's really cool. Maidstone was great. Friars Head was just, man, what a spot. Fisher's Island is just the mystique because no one really gets to play there that often. So taking the little ferry over there and playing a, old Seth Rayner course, it's always ranked like 11 in the world.
Yeah.
And just, they have a Redan, a Eat, and Punch Bowl, all the beer Ritz, however you say that other one. It's so cool. But I'd say my favorites I've ever played, I played Cypress, Oakmont, Marion, and Friars Head. I think those are probably my 4. Those are probably it right there. I love those ones.
Oakmont brutally difficult when you play in it.
Yeah, Oakmont is not easy, but it's fair. Like you know what to expect. But I've never played it in anything other than tournament conditions. But I hear for the members it's set up like that like all year long, which is it's cool.
Best golf shot you ever hit under tournament pressure, and then part 2 of it, the best golf shot you ever saw a competitor that you were with hit when you were on tour.
Yeah, so I think the first thing I hit kind of, I guess under pressure, I had a nice lead, but I had never won on the Web.com, and we played a course in Utah, Willow Creek, and the last hole they converted into this par. It was a kind of a weird par 4, and they converted into like a 215-yard par 3 over a lake. And I had a nice lead, but you can make anything that goes over a lake. If you're nervous, you don't even know what's going to happen. And I hit a 6-iron that flied like 1 inch from the cup. It ended up going like 15 feet past, but that was just a cool feeling knowing you can hit a shot like that when you had to. As far as competitor wise, competition wise, God, I'm trying to think. I played in Q school where a lot of guys have like made a birdie putt to make it on the number, and I can't think specifically there. I've seen so many good shots other guys have hit, but that's pretty cool watching that. And then like as a kid, just watching on TV, obviously anything Tiger did for like that 10-year stretch, everything was just a joke. All those putts that he made. But that's what I would say probably.
Yeah, it's interesting, the Tiger thing. It's I've had about 60 guests on, and majority of them are. I was playing with Tiger, and he hit this golf shot that I just didn't see it. Like, and especially back in his heyday before the injuries, it's, some of the shots, even for fellow PGA Tour players that they saw him hit, they just didn't see that to their eye. Yet, he could pull it off. So, yeah, he usually popped up every now and then when I would ask that question. So it's he definitely had a few back in his day, that's for sure. Hey, thanks. I really appreciate the time and really enjoyed the conversation. So best of luck on the business ventures, and hopefully we'll see you, competing, in a few more years as you get another 10 years closer to the Champions Tour, see if that fire gets going a little bit and see if we can see you out there again.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me. I had a great time, and hope to see you down the road.